Hey, it's Sue in the restricted section, and today I'm doing my January reading wrap-up. I read 4 books this month, which not as many as I wanted to read, but you know, life happened and I didn't have a lot of reading time at the end of the month, so hopefully next month will be better. But let's get right into it. The first book I read was actually this is technically 2 books, but it's Heart of Darkness and The Secret Sharer by Joseph Conrad. The Secret Sharer follows the captain of a ship, and he's a newbie captain, and one day he finds a naked man clinging to the side of his ship, and he lets the man up, and the man then tells him that he has fled his own ship because he was in an altercation with a crew member and accidentally killed him. The ship captain sort of sees himself in this man, and so he decides to help him, even though it's putting him and his job at risk. The writing in The Secret Sharer is pretty straightforward, unlike in Heart of Darkness. I think that the ship captain helped this man because he saw himself in him, but he saw strangely, in this murderer, he saw sort of a version of himself that he wanted to be. It was a more assertive, stronger type of person. So overall, I did like The Secret Sharer. I didn't think it was anything that special, though. And then you have Heart of Darkness, which I'm sure all of you have heard of this one. It's a classic. Heart of Darkness follows Marlowe, who is taking an expedition again on a ship through the Congo, or down the Congo River. And there's this sort of enigmatic figure named Mr. Kurtz, who the story sort of builds up anticipation for finally meeting this man. And then when you finally meet Mr. Kurtz, he's kind of a wackadoodle. He's like got heads on pikes outside of his hut, and he's dying, and he's, yeah, just real crazy. And I don't know if I just didn't get this book, or I've read very mixed reviews on it, and I think I was one of those people who I just didn't like it. It was first of all, it was very dense, even though it's a very short novel. It was a little hard to get through because there's just, I mean, there'd be a whole page or more that was one paragraph. And also it got a little confusing to me because everything Marlowe said was in quotation marks. And I think I read somewhere that someone said that Marlowe wasn't actually the narrator, even though it seemed as though he was the narrator. That it's actually another, like, unknown person who's recounting what Marlowe said. But it got kind of confusing whenever when Marlowe would be having a conversation with somebody else, because it was hard to tell who was speaking. And I don't know, like, this book just seemed pretty racist to me. I know there's sort of a debate on whether the book is racist or whether Joseph Conrad himself is racist. But you know, the Africans in the book were definitely depicted as like savages, and at the end, you know, there's this native woman who is in love with Mr. Kurtz, even though he's killed all of these native people, and you know, it just was seemed kind of wrong to me. But yeah, I didn't care for Heart of Darkness very much. I know it's a classic, so sue me. But anyway, overall, with this combined edition, I gave the book 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, which to me is a neutral rating. I know on Goodreads it says that 3 stars means you liked it, but to me that doesn't make any sense, and so I think of 3 stars as being just that I was kind of indifferent toward it. So let's move on to the next book, which I don't have a physical copy of. That book is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This book is a sci-fi novel that follows the crew of the Wayfarer, which is a spaceship, and they punch wormholes in space to allow travel between different areas. And they take this job that takes them through a long expedition through space into potentially hostile territory. This book is highly character driven. The plot is not the main focus. It's not boring by any means, but it's not a super action-packed book. And I'm not going to say too much else about it because myself and Megan, who is the co-owner of this channel, already did a full review on it, which I will link down below. But I loved this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Neutrino Hunters by Ray Jayawardena. Jayawardena? Let's stick with it. This book is about neutrinos. It talks about from before neutrinos were known to have existed up until now, when we have actually been able to detect them. Neutrinos are a very small particle of matter that has a neutral charge, and they're very difficult to detect because you can only detect them when they interact with another particle. I think this book is definitely for people who maybe only have like a basic knowledge of like particle physics, because it's pretty like basic information. I mean, it does delve into exactly what neutrinos are and why they're important, and the really awesome advancements that could be made using knowledge we gain from neutrinos. But if you're someone who already knows a lot about the subject, then you probably don't need to read this. And if you're intimidated because you feel like maybe something like this might be over your head, then don't worry about it, because going into this I only had like a pretty basic knowledge, just what I learned in high school essentially, and I don't think I ever took a class in college that would have talked about stuff like this. So I only had a pretty basic knowledge going into it, and I had no trouble understanding it, and I thought it was really interesting. So I would recommend this. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The only critique that I would maybe have is that with the writing, like he talks about all the different scientists who contributed to the discovery of neutrinos, and he kind of does a little background information, like a little bio of each of them in the book, which was great, I thought, because it was kind of nice to get to know them a little bit and also kind of break up some of the technical information. But sometimes it seemed like out of place, like maybe the transitions weren't great. But other than that, I thought it was pretty well written and yeah, really interesting. So moving along. The next book I read was, it's really hard to get your book, like learn how to get your book to be in the lens instead of, anyway, newbie. The next book I read was Summer by Edith Wharton. This book was written in the early 1900s, and it follows a young woman named Charity who has a passionate love affair with a young man, and it just kind of follows that affair and then the consequences of that affair, because of course that was something that was not okay at that time, especially for the woman, This is the second book I've read by Edith Wharton. The first one was The House of Mirth, which I absolutely loved. I really like the characters she writes. They're so kind of frustrating in the choices they make, because like that's a terrible choice, why are you doing that? But women were just so suppressed at that time that the choices they made were ones that we probably wouldn't bat an eye about doing now. So I find her characters really relatable as well for me as a woman. Yeah, I really loved this book. I liked House of Mirth better. I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. I really like the characters, and I like Edith Wharton's writing as well. And that's all the books that I completed this month. I'm working on this doozy right now, A Brief History of 7 Killings by Marlon James. I'm almost halfway through it, and so far it's pretty great. The writing is phenomenal. Each chapter is told by a different person, and he writes so well as so many different people. It was a little difficult starting out because a lot of the characters speak in Jamaican dialect, And so there's a lot of slang words that I never heard before, and their use of pronouns is very different. But once I kind of got used to it, it's going a lot faster now. But yeah, so far it's really great, so I can't wait to finish that. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe if you liked it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.